Hello everyone, welcome to Witch Hollow Homestead. Today I am going to show you how to make lacto-fermented hot peppers. For this recipe I'm going to be using some fresh local long hots that I picked up at my favorite local farm. Let's get started. Lacto-fermented peppers are one of my favorite snacks. I know that sounds a little odd, but there's times I just go right into the fridge, grab a couple, and snack on them because they are so addictively good. I pre-rinsed all of the long hot peppers, and I also washed my jars out with hot soapy water before we do any fermentation in them. I'm going to get a towel out to put down on the counter since the jars are still a little wet inside and I would like them to be relatively dry. And then I also washed my burper lids and my weights. What's great about this recipe is that it is flexible. You can use any kind of hot pepper you prefer. You can use something that's a little more mild or something that's definitely spicier. And this will also work with any type of small sweet pepper as well. As for the cut of the pepper, I'm going to be doing small rings. And I'll be trying to remove the stems and the seeds as best as I can, but you don't need to get real picky about that. One thing I have learned over the years, at least for me, is anytime I'm cutting hot peppers, even if they're mild, I always like to wear disposable gloves so that my hands aren't burning hours and sometimes even days later. I've tried several hot peppers this year with this recipe. I will say that the long hots are my second favorite, and my personal favorite are the jalapenos, but this is a very close second to that. As I mentioned, I want to try to get some of the stems and the seeds out, and I do that not because of heat related. I do it because I hate when I go to eat peppers and you're biting into a seed or a stem. Just for me, it's not very pleasant. So I put them in some cold water, and now I'm just gonna a little bit pick my way through and put them in a strainer. Our peppers are ready, and we're gonna start packing the jars. You can use any size jar you want as long as your weight and your burper lid fit. You wanna pack these jars pretty tightly, so after I add a few handfuls, I am pressing it down pretty hard. I'm not gonna be adding any additional flavors into these jars. I actually just really like them plain with the pepper, the salt, and the water. So what we're going to do is get our kitchen scale out, put our jar of peppers on the scale and tare the scale, and then we're going to add our water to the jar to see how much we need. You don't need to fill it all the way to the top, but pretty close, because we want that extra space for our jar weight. I am measuring this water in grams. Please make sure that when you do this, you are using filtered water. Now that I know the weight of my water, I'm going to times that amount by 3.5%, and that's going to tell me how much salt I need to add. So the salt is very important. You want to use a salt that does not have an anti-caking agent in it. So you're going to want to stick with a Celtic sea salt, a Himalayan pink salt, a Redmond's real salt, something like that. Make sure that you stir your salt water really well because you want those salt crystals to dissolve, and a lot of like the Himalayan pink salts or the Celtic salt don't dissolve very quickly. Sometimes I like to stir it and then come back in a few minutes and give it another stir before I add it to my jar. I like to add my jar weight in first before pouring the liquid in so that I don't overflow it and make a mess everywhere. When it comes to your burper, you can use any burper you'd like. For me, I prefer using the pickle pipes. These are my fermented pickles that I started a few days ago, And anytime I ferment something, I like to make sure I put them in a dish because sometimes they do overflow when they're burping and will make a mess. One last step I like to do before I begin the fermentation is I like to write the date in a dry erase marker on the jar that these peppers will be ready. That way it's easy for me to quickly check them and say, oh, they're ready today, or it'll take another day and I know I can wait. Just want to highlight that you're going to want to keep them in a place that it doesn't get too hot or too cold, so somewhere around 70 degrees. And I like to put them in the back corner on my counter because you do want to keep them out of direct light. But I did try a very interesting experiment with the peppers this time, and it's about how many days did I ferment each jar for. So let's go over to a few days from now and see how they turned out. Our peppers are ready, and it has been several days, and I first want to show you the color difference between these jars. This first jar I only fermented for 2 days. The next jar I fermented for 4 days. And the last jar I fermented for 5 days. 5 is the maximum number of days that you should ferment these peppers for. So I'm going to open each jar and give them a taste test and let you know what I prefer. I'm going to remove my pickle pipe and put a regular lid on these jars when I put them in the refrigerator, and I'm also removing my jar weight. So with the 2-day pepper, I only fermented 2 days because I really was craving them and I just wanted them quickly. I will say they stay a very nice bright green. They are very crispy, but they don't have a very fermented taste, but they're still good. Day 4 peppers, color is different, but they are so crispy and delicious. And then day 5, they didn't taste very different from day 4, except that they were less crunchy. So for me, I would definitely go with a 4-day ferment. It's the perfect balance of flavor and texture. I'm going to take all these peppers and put some lids on them and store them in the refrigerator. They will last up to 6 months in the refrigerator, although I will admit the one really big jar, the day 4 one, that was gone in about a week because I ate them all. They were so good. Thank you so much for joining me today at Witch Hollow Homestead. I hope you found this video helpful and inspiring. Happy homesteading!